This is my deputation in regards to an eviction order placed on me for my recording studio. Because you hold authority and responsibility for TCHC's conduct towards tenants, please hear my deputation regarding an urgent and unique legal matter involving my dual tenancies with TCHC. I've been told that I'm not allowed to communicate with you other than through the legal department, but I do not believe that's a valid notice. Therefore, I have myself and a colleague who's going to read after myself. I again respectfully request that the board staff and the board draft and approve a motion to cease and redirect TCHC's actions aimed at terminating my tenancy of my music studio for over 30 years by January 31st, 2018. At minimum, until the matter has been properly reviewed by members of the board. The cause of this action is fully identified, and a more appropriate course of action is considered to resolve whatever issues are of concern to TCHC. TCHC is also the landlord of my family home, my single-family home, 402 Delaware, and is aware that shutting down the studio that provides the income I need to pay for my rent and utilities could render my family homeless. I must petition you, the highest level of authority at TCHC, to defend myself, my livelihood, my housing, and my family, and my clients, many of who are here, other musicians and recording artists. I am a self-employed professional musician, producer, and recording engineer whose work in the studio over the past 30 years has earned me enough to pay over $430,000 in unsubsidized market rent that have contributed to supporting the management and maintenance of 331 Bartlett and other TCHC properties I have lived in. I should also point in that it pays the staff of the legal department that has been fighting me for 2 years. It is not at all easy to stay afloat in the struggling music industry as an African Canadian in his 50s and a single father raising 2 growing teenagers. I'm in no position to shut down, dismantle, and then try to rebuild my studio and career in the middle of the winter, or before I've had a chance to create an equivalent situation, which I have not. Having made many efforts to amicably resolve this and related issues with TCHC management and legal staff over the last 4 years, to no avail, I'm appealing to this board to consider what is really at stake and to take action to prevent further hardship and irreparable harm. Please note that there appears to be no benefit to TCHC to be gained in undertaking this incomprehensible action against me, which is contrary to TCHC's publicly stated mandate, mission, and value statements. No tenants actually face or have ever faced risk, and there's a tenant here from the building as well, who lives right next to the studio, who will speak to that. And no one has complained except for one particular person who has a record of complaints. And I think you know this, Kathy. The recent stated issues of noise and parking were never expressed to me prior to the court hearing, the last court hearing, divisional court, and the legal department's factum of defense contained numerous factual errors. This needless termination notice to quit action was not suspended by the board meeting of Thursday, September 28th, so final copies of my motion and attended materials were filed at divisional court. I was asking to be granted the right to appeal the LTB decision that ignored several issues of law and determined that my studio was not protected by the RTA. That I was not granted right to appeal because of the technicalities, namely time limits, does not address or resolve many outstanding issues in this unique case. It did, however, result in a CBC news article that questioned the fairness and merits of this action. As there appears to be no legal or moral grounds for this action, and I'm not in arrears, I do not see any just cause to vacate my studio on January 31st, 2018. The unit will become derelict and the space wasted, rather than adding value to the building and to the community. Nor should I have been coerced into signing any document designed to entrap me into extinguishing my right in exchange for an extension of time to vacate on January 31st. I feel I am being subjected to systemic discrimination and tendencies of TCH staff to default to adversarial responses to tenants who wish to use their spaces for community and cultural activities, rather than discuss and negotiate issues with respect to the tenants who help pay for their salaries. I believe that the board should be concerned about this sort of behavior within the offices of the TCHC. I know that I'm not alone in this concern. I do not want to engage in any more legal actions, especially without representation. Doing so would add to the enormous toll of stress, exhaustion, losses, and expenses that I've already suffered for over 4 years of costly struggle with TCHC's relentless legal department and disrespectful management staff. The board of directors should ensure that the legal department and management staff, whom we pay for, seek to resolve problems and solve problems, not to create them. Please spare me and TCHC the likely consequence of not fairly resolving this egregious matter, including public embarrassment, wasteful expenditure, the dismay of a large and diverse community of current and former clients, co-creatives, fellow performers, fans, students, and friends, in defense of a well-known, respected musician, performer, and experienced technician. Above all, causing severe hardship and irreparable harm without just cause for a good tenant and his children. All this to leave a much cherished creative space empty and derelict. After 30 years, which was custom built for the arts, in an arts building. I doubt that any of you would want to bear responsibility for this wasteful assault on my life. Fortunately, it is in your power to do something about it. I hope that you do. Thank you for your time.